How does a real estate investor make a killer deal in a crazy competitive market? Stay tuned. Well, guys, welcome to today's edition of NoteSchool TV. And again, we have an amazing guest today. And before we bring him on, and he does live in a crazy market, by the way. But before we bring him on, three things, right? Make sure and like what you see today. It makes us very happy when you like our content. Make sure that if you are not subscribed to the NoteSchool TV channel, to make sure and go ahead and do that. And also, remember, hit that bell notification. That's right. Go ahead and do it right now. If you have not done that in the past, hit that bell notification so you will have ample warning before we go live every Wednesday at 11:05 Central. So, couple of things here. If you want more information, if you want to hear more about NoteSchool and how we can show you how to close more deals, well, simply go to noteschool.com/TV. Again, noteschool.com/TV. And we would be happy to get back with you. Make sure and keep sending us those comments and asking us those questions because, again, we love to hear from you and we love to make sure and we're giving you the content that you need and want. So we're going to do what we do every week at this time, and we are going to go to the news. So our first news story, fresh off the presses here, investors are buying up more than 25% of the available homes in the following markets. So guys, well, our guest today is from Jacksonville. And by the way, 29.8% of the homes that were bought in the first quarter of the year were investor homes. Of course, Miami was number one with 27.5, 28.4 in Miami, Las Vegas at 29.2, and then Jacksonville at 29.8, which is the highest. And guys, these are not low priced homes. These are homes in all of these areas that are ranging from $250,000 all the way up to $600,000 and $700,000. So investors are buying a lot of houses, and I thought this was interesting as well. U.S. housing market is leaving buyers in tears. Why are they leaving buyers in tears? According to this Zillow survey, well, I'm going to read here. 62% were stressed out about having to or finding a home within their budget. 61% were worried about finding a home that they liked, and 58% were stressed about just finding a house in their preferred neighborhood. So, guys, it's a kind of a crazy market when when it leaves you in tears, right? So that is the news for this week. And now it is my pleasure to introduce NoteSchool's chief visionary, NoteSchool's founder, and my friend, Mr. Eddie Speed. How are you today, sir?
Hello, Joe. How you doing?
I am doing just wonderful, man. It is a good day.
It is a good day. It is a good day. We, as you know, because you've been getting emails from me, I've been on a research hunt this morning myself.
Yes, I have.
And a lot of interesting things in the market. NoteSchool TV's end of the month should be interesting this month, Joe. Got a lot of record-breaking numbers.
We do.
And some of them are record-breaking, not in a good way.
Right. You know, I'm happy though, Eddie, that the rates are, right between, they vacillated between about 5.25 and 5.5. And I had a news piece a couple of weeks ago, and one of the big economists said this 5% to 5.5% rates can't scare anybody out of this market, right?
Well, it's interesting. We'll see if that's true or not.
We'll see.
Yeah. Joe, we have a good guest today. This is not an old NoteSchool student. He's pretty new with us and got a great story that we're excited about for several reasons. And I'm going to actually go through a few things in that. We'll bring him on and just talk to him a little bit and really kind of talk about what's led him to this trail of adding this into his business. So let's welcome Wayne Garab.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here.
How you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing awesome.
Hey, Wayne, happy to have you, man.
Great to be alive.
Yeah.
In Jacksonville, nonetheless.
You're in a very competitive market, and we're going to talk. In a little bit, we'll pull your deal up, and actually, we have some slides today to show people some images and pictures. I think it'll be valuable to them. But I wanted to talk a little bit about just the journey. You know, life is a journey, right? And I wanted to start out a little bit. You know, you've heard me tell my story, right? I didn't come with a master's degree in finance. I came with an associate's degree in ranch management. And you started out with a blue collar position in life.
I did.
And you progressed up. Tell us about that a little bit.
I come my whole family, blue collar, come up through the ranks as a mechanic, turning wrenches. I was of the mindset from as far back as I can remember that you don't necessarily have to like your job. You just have to provide enough income to put food on the table and a roof over your family's head. And I did not like my job. I was good at it. I was a very good mechanic, but I didn't get fulfilled out of it. So, but it served the purpose, and it did for many years, 40 years. So that's where we came from. And I've always had great jobs and made decent money, lived middle class, but there was always that nagging entrepreneurial spirit in the back of my mind because I just wasn't satisfied with doing budgets for other people or just dealing with the HR debacles that come about when you're in corporate America. So that's kind of where we started out, and I finally broke free.
Well, you and I are a similar age. And so I think we probably come up, I was raised in the South too, right? And so we probably came up with some of the same belief systems and some of the same influences. My dad was not a blue collar worker. My dad was in management, but my dad spent a lot of his life working for somebody else. And I think my dad was good at his job too, but I don't think he loved it until he got in the note business at 68 years old. And the reason I say that is because that's a true story that he told me that probably 10,000 times before he passed away in his 80s. And the second thing I would say is my father-in-law, who was his day job he was fireman. And then he was a real estate investor, and he worked a lot on property, right? He physically worked a lot. So by the time I came along and started dating Martha, my wife now 40 years, and when I started dating Martha and I met Mr. Shoemaker at that point, that was my father-in-law. He wasn't at the time, of course, but when I met him, he said, "Son, you can't make a lot of money wiping sweat." And it sounds kind of gross, but it's pretty dang true, isn't it?
Spot on.
And guys, I'm going to jump off here and let you two guys talk, and I'll see you in a minute.
All right, Joe. See you, buddy.
Hey, Joe.
See, so I can relate to a lot of like belief systems that we're given at a certain age. And you've heard me say this, it wasn't anything but luck. Maybe taking action has something to do with it. Okay. But I was introduced into a business, and my career path was likely going to be in the cattle related business. Now, I still love being a cowboy, right? I mean, I still own boots and hats and got a lot of buddies in the business, and I ride around on property and stuff like that. But that's a lot different than me making a living in the cattle business. And because in the cattle business was quite in turmoil in 1980, right? It was looking a lot like it does right now. In fact, it was looking worse. Interest rates were 20%. And so I just stumbled into a business that happened to be, just a gold mine in the middle of an inflationary wreck of a market. And, but I kind of look at your story that way, Wayne.
I bought my first house in the 82. And I think my interest rate was almost 14%.
No kidding.
Yeah. And I thought, well, of course that was my first house, so I didn't care. I just wanted a house. But, I worked hard like we were talking about, and I always wanted to do something on my own. And I tried a lot of things, the multi-level stuff, but raising 4 kids, if it doesn't start bringing income in pretty quick, you got to stop and go back to work. So I was kind of at that point where I had to stay with the job and just do what I needed to do. But I did finally have an opportunity, and I'm glad to be here now.
Well, and you have one of your kids working with you in the business.
I do. One of my middle son, Grant, he's also full-time active duty military. He'll be retiring soon, but yeah, he's my partner. He lives up in the northwest corner of Georgia. I'm down here in Florida, and we kind of tackle both ends of the spectrum here. So it's a lot of fun. That's been my goal.
The NoteSchool audience, Wayne, as you have figured out, is full of people that have a son, a son-in-law, a daughter-in-law, a something connected in the business. And of course, that is my story. My father-in-law got me in the business. I got my dad in the business when he was in his late 60s. My son-in-law has been with us now about 10 years. He works on the side as his own portfolio and then works with us here in the business. My 2 sons are active in the business. I have one son that is a fireman, a paramedic. So that's clearly his number one. And then he works on the land business side, and my other son works in the business. So it's a pretty good family business, right? And it's a cool story whenever I get to hear you guys' story about your family, and we appreciate your son's service, and we'll look forward to seeing him have a second incredible career doing this.
Well, a lot of people always talk about you got to have a dream. You got to have your why that drives you through the down times. And for a lot of folks, it may be material stuff, but mine from the day one has always been to become successful in my own business so that I could show my children that there is another way versus holding a job that you may or may not like. That's always been what's driven me, is to get to that point where I could show them, not just say the words. So that's a huge driving factor.
That's very commendable, Wayne. And I respect you a lot for that because, I got introduced into that thing that I loved. And so I've never really had a job kind of thing. But you weren't so lucky, and you spent a lot of years just having to go grind it out. And I appreciate your tenacity, and I'm glad to see you up on top of the mountain now.
It's awesome now. I love it.
Wayne, we're going to do a case study here. When we come back, we're going to take a little break. We're going to do a case study about your first deal and a tax loophole angle that you worked with a gentleman that wanted to sell, and he wanted income, but he didn't want aggravation. So that'll be a fun case study. I want to talk a little bit about what this commercial is about, because this commercial is about people like Wayne or you in the audience. Like, what is the note business? How does this work? And so we've made a pretty easy path to get started. You have a little one-day class that's not expensive, and it takes, not a huge amount of time to get through it, but it's about showing innovation, about showing people what's possible. You guys watch this commercial from our sponsor, NoteSchool.
Well, hello, everyone. It is Brian with the teaching team here at NoteSchool, and I'm excited that I get to be the one to invite you to the upcoming Gold in Notes class. That's right. It is a one-day deeper dive class that we call Gold in Notes because of how valuable this time spent is. This is a full day that we really get to dig into the nitty-gritty, the whole world of creative financing, not just how to acquire more deals, how to get access to more capital, how to defer a lot lot of the taxes for us as well as for the sellers that we're talking to, and really learn how to create your own notes. And really, once you learn how to create your own notes, this is really where we spend an entire afternoon really pulling back the curtain on what the note business is, from wholesaling notes, buying and holding performing notes to really build your wealth. I'll even show you a strategy called partials, which is by far the best wealth building tool I've ever seen in the real estate space. And we're definitely going to spend some time talking about non-performing notes, which is by far the biggest opportunity in today's marketplace, solely because of the events that have happened over the past couple of years. This is when people are not paying their mortgages, and we're going to make a lot of big money from these bad debts, and we're going to help a lot of people get a second chance. It's an absolutely fantastic day. Come spend a day really digging and discover a lot of this stuff so that you too can start building your wealth. It's a day meant to really be engaging. Bring your questions, bring your comments, bring your business problems, and we will see you there.
You've been there, hadn't you, Wayne?
I have. I sure have.
So, Wayne, let's pull this up. I want to pull up this presentation, and we just go through. It's just a few slides, but I think seeing the picture, this pretty little property and stuff. Let's talk about this property seller, Wayne. What was his story?
This gentleman, he and his wife both own probably 4 or 5 rental properties and have for many years in a small town outside of Jacksonville. This gentleman they're in their 70s, as I mentioned before. And I came across him through my cold calling VAs that we use. That's one of the methods that we use for marketing.
Yep.
And we have been marketing in the past just basically for vacant properties. And turns out he answers the phone, and the house that we called on, they were not wanting to sell. But his wife says, "Well, wait a minute, he's overworking on our fourplex right now, and he might want to sell that." So she put me in contact with him.
So you have a regular fix and flip business and wholesale business, and you have an acquisition strategy. And we talk about this as a trash can lead, right?
Yes.
Because it's not exactly what you were calling him for, but you see an opportunity. And the opportunity here is he was very motivated in figuring out how not to pay taxes today. True enough?
Very true. Very true. He did not want to pay. He didn't want to pay any taxes, just like the rest of us don't want to pay any taxes. And this is the best way that we come up with.
Do you know, I'm not an accountant and I don't play one on TV, but do you know that monthly income, which turns into annual income, do you know that if it was in his story below $40,000, it's pretty safe to say he may not ever have to pay capital gains on that less than $40,000 a year income?
I did not know that.
There's kind of there's another tax loophole there, and so it's kind of an interesting story there. Depending on if he was super high income, that may not be the case, but I don't believe this guy was he?
No, not at all. Not at all. He's a retired military man and just living on the some of the rent monies that he's got coming in on his few properties.
All right, so pretty property, and it was all occupied, a fourplex, and you bought it still at a discount.
I did. He originally wanted $300,000. We say I bought it at a discount because I feel that I did once we converted this from a normal sale to creative terms here. But 300 is what he wanted, and I was in the beginning. I was going to just flip it because it was easy. I had a buyer lined up that was willing to give me $50,000 just to take it off my hands.
Yeah, but
he fell through.
So your buyer fell through, and you had to go back and retrade the deal, right?
Correct. Yes.
It wasn't a bait and switch. You just had to go. You had somebody that was, let's just be fair about it, kind of wanting to almost pay too much. And when that guy fell apart, then you had to go back to the guy and say, look, do you still want to sell? But I've got a unique strategy that you might consider, which is if you defer collecting your payments today and you collect them tomorrow, you can defer when you are taxed, when you pay the tax.
I wasn't as eloquent about it as you are, but I did bring up the fact that if he could hold the note for me, And I wasn't savvy enough to understand the tax strategies as well as I do now, but he was. That was his first words out of his mouth. He was very willing to talk about terms because of the tax strategy.
Very interesting. Most of these, what I would say, fairly unsophisticated amateur landlords don't know about that. So it's interesting that he did. That's impressive. And we always found a pretty good lead to say, you know, we can make you a tax strategy offer. You like that?
I like that. In fact, I'm going to write it down.
Oh, so here's the thing. The thing is the bargain was not the price. The bargain was how you structured these crazy terms.
Yep. He, like I said, he was wanting 300,000 when we started talking about terms. Only what I did, and I'm just doing this with my calculator, my phone calculator, and a yellow pad of paper, trying to figure out what to do. I knew what the monthly gross rents were, and I knew that if I could get him at least half of that, maybe per month, maybe he would go for that. And so that's just where I started.
That's about what he's netting on the income side anyway.
That's just kind of where I wanted to start out and see what happened. So,
yeah.
So I threw it together as I'll give you $2,000 a month. And I tried to do it for the entire term, which would have been 12 years, but he did not want to go that long. So that's when we decided to put the balloon on it at 8 years.
So if you see the numbers here, guys, two things here. He structured this deal at no interest. He did a payment of $2,000 a month, which is, as you heard Wayne say, about 50% of his gross rents. Most typical landlord deal on this kind of property, that's about all he's netting anyway. So he wasn't losing cash flow. And the truth of the matter is he was tired of the job, right?
That's exactly what it was, because he managed it himself. He and a helper did all the work on that property. So yes, he was tired of it.
All right. So at the end of 8 years, you owe him $118,000 because the loan was amortized, meaning that if it paid out without a balloon, it would have been a 12-year note.
Yes, sir.
That's a pretty short fuse. We generally don't think that you could find a deal that would work and do a 12-year amortization on the underlying debt.
And obviously, and unbeknownst to me at the time, because like I said, I just put this together and made it up as I went along. The 0% interest obviously is what allowed me to do that.
100%. People say, well, you can't do that. And Wayne, now that you've been involved in NoteSchool, you've seen so many case studies. You're like, oh yeah, you can.
You can't. Well, and let's not forget, I don't know if I've mentioned it before or not. He didn't bring up interest. He says, what about some interest? And through just discussion, we had a good rapport built, and he and I were sitting there talking. And that's when I decided to say, okay, well, I'll give you $330,000 and we'll just call that interest at $30,000. And I didn't care that I went up on price since he was going to hold the terms. So yeah. I gave him $20,000 down, and then we divvied up the last 310.
Two things I would make an observation. I've been over countless deals of stuff that we've done internally or our students. And I would say that the seller's not stupid. It's not that they don't understand interest, and the other thing is, I find students feel like sometimes that when you're sort of new, you sort of feel like the thing that they're arguing about on the front end of the conversation is the sword they're going to fall on. And I would say that you checked yes in the blank of the most important two things. You relieved him of a job, and you gave him the same cash flow he was getting now.
I agree with that.
That's it. I mean, if you want to know what made this deal, now your rapport and all those things were essential, right? Now let's talk about the exit. So you buy this thing, really good terms, very impressive, right? There's the top part. You can see the terms of the deal. That's the buy. And then let's talk about your exit.
Well, as just real quickly, I had a buyer lined up, and the one day prior to closing with these same terms, the day before closing, he and his partner backed out. His partner, I guess, which was his money guy, got cold feet and backed out, which that's fine. I gave him back their binder money and parted as friends. And I got another person to call me from the same ad that I had put out, and he was interested, and we got to talking, and there we have it. We kept the same terms. The only thing I changed, I think you mentioned in the beginning, was I made it a prepayment penalty for the first 5 years, because he had, during our discussion, I had caught wind. One of the comments was something about paying it off rather quickly.
So a couple of things here. It's really important. You sold this to a guy that's going to use it as a rental, right?
That's correct. He's an investor, yes.
So that's a completely different loan than selling to a consumer. So I don't want anybody to assume that you can put exactly the same prepayment terms in a consumer loan you can in an investor loan. Okay, so that's important. It's an important variable. And the most important thing I would say to you is you proved that this was duplicatable, because the first guy fell out and your whole model didn't blow up. You just kept the ad running and got a second guy.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, what I like about this is while you bought it at 0 interest, you loaned the money back out at 6%. You're kind of like my bank.
Exactly.
They take your money and pay you almost nothing and turn around and loan it to me and charge me interest.
Well, I've got good teachers right here.
All right. So what I love about this is you had to do a longer amortization because you had to keep his cash flow model working, right?
Yes.
And so, but you got a buyer with 50,000 now. If we kind of go to how much money you made, to up front, you made 30 grand. And that's a pretty good flip fee, right?
I liked it.
That's 30 grand profit today. So a lot of times people think, well, I wouldn't do terms because I can't make any money today. Well, that's just not true, right? You made 30 grand. You're not making a huge cash flow every month.
Nope.
Okay. I mean, $250 is okay. I mean, it's $3,000 a year, and but you need a lot of these to make that work. And the reason you did that is because the guy would give it to you on really good terms, so long as you could keep, when the guy you bought it from, you had to keep his payment up. So his debt service was $2,000 a month. For those of you in the audience, this is kind of like you've heard the term a sandwich lease. Well, this isn't a lease. This is a sandwich seller financing. Wayne bought it with seller financing, and he resold it with seller financing. He's obligated to pay the underlying mortgage. Now, we call that a wrap note. But those of you that are familiar with sandwich leases, it's essentially the same concept. Wayne, here's a killer good deal, though. At the end of 8 years, you are collecting a balloon and you are paying off a balloon.
Yes.
And that thing has a $200,000 payday in it.
Yes, it does.
So
that's what I was after. The end result is, to your point, is exactly what I was after. That's why the $248 a month, as long as it was in the positive, I was fine.
So a lot of guys in the wholesale business and the fix and flip business, they say, well, I like the business because I get to make good money today. And I would say 30 grand is good money today. Right?
Yep. On a flip, I would have been fine with 30 or 40 and just keep moving.
But the truth of the matter is, the offer you made to him, you couldn't find a second buyer. In other words, when your deal fell apart, you couldn't just go load another buyer in it really quick. And so you were fixing to lose this deal.
Yes, I was.
So you dug a deal out of the garbage can.
Pretty much.
Kind of one of our slogans is close more deals, and but anyway, it has great income in the future, and the $3,000 a year is good. And I bet you a lot of people that own rental properties aren't really netting $3,000 real net income in a year, truth be told, right?
I can believe that because I have rentals.
And but the truth of the matter is, it's got a heck of a payday on the backside, and you're the bank, right?
I'm excited about this. I get to make a ton more money doing it this way. I don't have to deal with the house. I don't have to deal with the 4 separate tenants. Just before I sold the house, just before we closed, I had to put a refrigerator in one of the units. So yeah, I'm extremely happy with it.
Well, Wayne, I am excited for you. You and I were talking about it. You and I are close to the same age. And we've got kids that we're seeing come along in the business, and we're trying to be a good dad, and we're trying to be good examples. And we're trying to show them that you can write some of the terms of your life. If you just get determined, you can write some of the terms of your life, right?
That's exactly right.
And I'm excited about you and your son's first few years in the business, and seeing you guys grow and progress. And that was your very first deal.
That was our first NoteSchool. After getting involved with NoteSchool, that was the first deal that my son and I did together, and now we got something to really live up to.
I got no doubt in my mind that we will see many more of those to come. Joe, what do you think?
Well, I think that's an amazing deal. And literally, Wayne, you had kind of started this deal with you were going to wholesale it. You then went to a 3-day class. You came out on Monday, something happened, and boom, you fell right into the terms deal. And literally, guys, we didn't add the money up, but I was doing that in the background. So you had $30,000 today. You had $23,800 in cash flow over 96 months. And then you had another $211,000. So Wayne, you took a deal that you were going to make 30 grand on, or 40 grand if you flipped it, and turned that into almost a buck shy of $265,000.
Damn,
sounds much better, doesn't it?
I would say that.
Yeah, it's all like grand on his face,
bargain,
right?
Wayne. I'm just saying.
Yep. I appreciate all the help for sure on this one, but it's awesome.
That's good.
And you mentioned at the first of it, we were talking about, it's the tax loophole thing. And I've been doing a little more research on that, Eddie. So it's Section 409, if you want to check into that. But Eddie, it's actually, if you're a single filer, it's $40,400. If you make $40,400 or less, it's $0. For married filers, it's $80,800 for married filers. So you could make up to $80,000. And
so listen to this, Wayne. If he would have sold that house for cash, he'd have had to pay capital gains.
Yep.
Right. He's getting $24,000 a year, and because he's under 40,000, or if he and his wife, it doesn't matter. He's still under 40, whether he's filing with his wife or not.
Right.
He's not paying tax on any of the 24,000.
There's no reason why anybody wouldn't do this kind of deal as a seller.
Wonder why we call this the tax loophole strategy.
No doubt. Awesome.
Goodness.
Wayne, you got a great story. Any wisdom you'd leave our audience with?
Just work hard, keep your ears open, and don't ever give up.
Yeah.
I'm 61. I never gave up, and I don't intend to now.
That's great. And you're getting to do something you really love now.
Absolutely. I enjoy it every day.
That's great. Joe, take us home, buddy.
I certainly will. Guys, thanks so much for being with us this week on our episode with NoteSchool TP. Wayne is a great guy. He's he started out just where many of you started out, and you heard him, right? You heard of his words of wisdom there. Hey guys, you just got to get out there and do it. You get out there and you swing the bat and you make your own luck, right? And you take what you learn and you get out there and apply it. So again, if you want to know more about what we do at NoteSchool, simply go to noteschool.com/TV and, just check in with us. We'd love to have a conversation with you about, getting you into a 1-day class and making that happen for you, or just, giving you a little more information. So Anyway, that is it for today. Again, NoteSchool, where we show you how to close more deals. And, just imagine closing one of these, but just imagine closing another 8 or 9 or 10 of those this year. And you start to see how that all adds up. Again, thanks for being with us. We will see you on our next episode, which I think that's going to be our monthly wrap up, right? So anyway, thanks so much. We'll see you on the other side.